Alright, this is the ethics final project, starting with Module 1. We first discovered that ethics originated in ancient Greece, and it was presently defined as originally as the study of the morality and what are good and bad ends to pursue in life, and truly what is the right and wrong to do in the conduct of life, coming from our reading The Central Questions of Ethics, that displayed and raised our attention to in this course of the questions for what is the nature of the life of excellence, what is the ultimate worth of the goals we seek, and what specific courses of conduct in keeping with these goals will help lead to a life of true excellence. We looked specifically into trying to find what the goodness of a thing is and what that excels with. This leads into the Greek notion of arete, which is the virtue, good, excellence, and happiness of life. And differing from morality, we find that it is the standards of right and wise conduct whose authority in practical thought is determined by reason rather than the custom. Learning that people have normal feelings, but not everyone in the society has the same and equal feelings. Our moral issues are those actions which have potential to help or harm each other in the end. Going back to the goodness of a thing, doing only the right things as defined by a particular system of ethics. In the second reading of the module, what is a moral issue and the distinction between moral actions and non-moral actions, we are brought with two hypotheses, one being moral issues are those which involve a difference of belief and not a matter of preference, and hypothesis two being moral issues are those which involve the experience of special kind of feeling. The one that I relate closely with in the end after learning all of the issues is that of hypothesis number 4, stating that moral issues are those actions which have the potential to help or harm others or ourselves. And it also states that this is the actual definition that we looked at in the course, and it's the working definition because it's a version of the consequentialist ethics and has a number of objections that we discussed. I think this relates to not only our human decisions, but the moral concerns of the effects we have on others, and ends up relating to a lot of other theories. Moving on in the module, we are focusing on that proof only exists in math and logic and that there are no empirical proofs that exist. This comes from that of Plato's statements, nowhere is his philosophy written. He was the student of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle, and his writing took place in the middle of the 4th century BCE in ancient Greece. He was primarily influenced by Socrates, and to the extent Socrates is usually the main character in many of his writings. Before we move on to the next module, I want to highlight the reading and topic that we covered relating to the modern reference of Facebook and how Plato would see it within his Republic. With Jenny Jenkins arguing about the topic and what I've learned about Plato, we quickly learned that he would most likely not allow this form of communication and social media in his Republic. Plato would disagree with the majority of the platform of Facebook, although he would support the idea of censorship, as the author writes on page 18 of Philosophy Now, that Facebook has recently been in the news for not censoring hate speech and indecent photographs thoroughly enough, even though it has a team of people checking and removing unsavory postings. He would approve of the sort of censorship activity. This would also mean a severe censoring of the internet by the guardians, so Plato would in the end approve of Facebook's attempt to censor its content, but he would be far more discriminating about what ordinary citizens would be allowed to post, which I see that is the problem nowadays, is that the social media platforms like Facebook gives any person, anyone to express their opinion without reason or facts behind it. Also, going back to the author's statement that Facebook does not have the intention of promoting morality and does not particularly seek to educate its users. So, with this said, Plato would have disapproved for all of it together for this reason alone. After looking into a piece of Plato's that has Euthyphro and Socrates arguing, questioning each other of their claims, we learn about Aristotle, the influential thinker who was driven by his desire for knowledge and believing that human beings naturally desire explanations of things in the world. Aristotle differs from the others because he believes natural organisms, as well as their parts, have final causes. Also, of logic concerns only sentences which are true or false, which he commands. Questions and so on are the concern not of logic but of rhetoric. With Phusis in mind, where all things go without justice, we take a look at Aristotle and his democracy beliefs. With page 8 of Philosophy Now, Matt Korvotrup looks into maintaining a peaceful political system. Aristotle thinks that it is necessary to involve all the citizens for political systems to endure because those in power treat those outside the Constitution well, and they do so by bringing their leading men into the Constitution. Aristotle, in the end, is an ancient thinker who has logic that is straightforward and his lesson that is clear, with more democratic engagement leading to less inequality and lower levels of violence. Coming into Module 2, slightly going away from that knowledge versus belief and reason versus opinion aspect of the Western philosophy, we discover Kierkegaard, who truly looks into the question of faith. But now we still have reason being the logos, the knowledge, and the angst, and faith being the pathos. With Kierkegaard, going back to the 1800s, he believes that faith has nothing to do with justice, and only faith can cure that of human despair, but faith does not equal that of reason. God's justice and our justice is not the same. When considering what is reason and versus opinion, we have to consider that of the connection between phusis and polis. Phusis now being the chaos, risk, and freedom that lies within, and polis being the state, the order, protection, and safety. We have the social contract that was created, with human beings being politically or unorganized in what they called a state of nature and a society created by people either explicitly or tactically establishing a contract whereby they agree to live together in harmony for their mutual benefit. Stephen Feisen in the License to Steal writes on page 12, under the terms of the social contract, each member agrees to surrender his or her natural right to use any means they deem necessary and useful to defend life and possessions, and the state assumes responsibility for protecting their persons, goods, and receives authority from the people to perform this duty. We clearly have some philosophers still exposing their opinions and beliefs. Continuing on with William James and pragmatism, and Nietzsche and his existentialism. At the end of the course, I was starting to be informed why the knowledge versus belief contributed so greatly to the Western philosophy, particularly in morality and ethics. In our reading, The Virtue Theory, in the West, they state, in the West, virtue ethics founding fathers were Plato and Aristotle. Virtue ethics persisted as the dominant approach in Western moral philosophy until at least the Enlightenment suffered a momentary eclipse during the 19th century but re-emerged in Anglo-American philosophy in the late 1950s.